Welcome to Promo Insiders, the ASI Media podcast that covers the topics that matter most to the promotional products industry. I'm CJ Mitica, and today I'm joined by ASI executive editors Teresa Hagel and Sarah Lavandusky to make some bold predictions about industry sales, tariffs, AI, and more in 2025. Be sure to listen to the end where we make our definitely 100% going to be wrong guesses for product of the year. So this is the third year that we've done this Bold Predictions podcast. For ASI employees, they know that our chairman, Norman Cohn, famously makes his predictions every year at our company holiday party. He usually does pretty good. I mean, I think both of you agree, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's more than half anyway. It's usually in the upper end.
Yes, Norman does a good job. Famously, he always says whatever he predicts for the stock market, do the opposite of that, and you'll be very well off. Well, so this is the third year that we've been doing it as a podcast. I checked my track record last year, so I made 8 predictions last year, and I think it was pretty good. There was 4 I was dead on, 2 were kind of iffy, and 2 I was wrong about. I'm not going to go through each one, but I definitely nailed the fact that the industry will grow, but not as fast as people think. I said there won't be a recession, and I said that Stanley would still be the drinkware king. I said there wouldn't be an AI revolution last year. I think there kind of was. We'll talk about that. The ones I definitely got wrong, Sarah, you and I predicted that the presidential merch would suck. Of course, we did not anticipate that Biden would drop out of the race and someone would try to shoot Donald Trump. So I think that had a major effect on improving the merch. I also predicted that Bluetooth trackers would be the product of the year, and I would say they're more popular, but it was not a finalist when we ended up choosing it.
That wasn't even on the board.
Yeah, unfortunately. Overall, though, happy with my predictions, and we're going to be making 9 new predictions for 2025. We're going to be touching on a bunch of different topics. I'm going to say what my prediction is, and then Sarah and Teresa are going to say that I'm either a genius or an idiot, probably more the latter because they do that more often anyway. And you can come back in a year and see again if I was right or wrong. Okay, so the very first prediction. Growth in the promo industry and the U.S. economy will be positively, amazingly okay. And so my thinking is that there's a bunch of different things that go into it. Let's start with the economy first. It's been a huge subject, basically a referendum that was litigated through the election. And looking at next year, like I don't think it's going to be gangbusters, but I don't think it's going to be a recession either. Moody's and other economists have been predicting about 2% growth, which is okay, not great, but not bad. And there's also the presence of Donald Trump and what he's going to do. What I think and what economists have also said is that there's going to be some definite positives and some potential negatives. The positives that Donald Trump is obviously very pro-business and puts forth legislation and policies that encourage business growth. And so I think we're expecting some of that. And there's going to be further interest rate cuts, which I think will be a positive for businesses as well. The potential negatives, tariffs, which we'll get into, but that certainly could have an effect, and there's a bunch of uncertainty around that. And then what he's going to do with immigration. And if they do deport a lot of immigrants, that's going to definitely impact the economy. I don't think that's up for debate whether you think they should be here or not. So for the economy, it's going to be okay. I'll start with you, Sarah. Like, what do you think about the economy for this year, 2025?
Yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, I think like to your point, there's just so many factors that there's factors that I think boost optimism. There are factors that I think cause some caution. So it's kind of balancing itself out. So it's not going to be skyrocketing sales in the industry. I think there's definitely still I think people are cautiously optimistic. I think the first, few days of the new year have been a little bit a little scary, a little tumultuous. It's not, I think, the new year that people kind of had anticipated. So there's just a lot of things going on that I think just have people, even aside from Trump, I think people are just a little bit cautious right now. So yeah, I tend to agree with you. I don't think it's going to be like a huge like 2019 type of year of growth, but I think we'll see gradual, kind of gentle growth as that optimism catches on more and more.
Teresa, what do you think?
Well, I mean, I think you guys have said it all. I agree with both of you. I think I think there will be growth. I don't think it's going to be kind of skyrocketing. I think it's going to be modest, sort of, you know, this kind of thing, not this.
And if you're listening, Teresa was pointing flat, then she was pointing instead of pointing up. So
Slightly up, slightly up,
slightly
a
up.
slight incline.
So how's that going to translate to industry sales? Well, as we all know, how the economy fares is how our industry fares. This previous year was well, it wasn't great. The third quarter was definitely the best quarter in terms of growth. I think growth was about 4.2%. The first half of the year was difficult, and the growth was very minor. I think it was even down in the first quarter. And we have not released either our Q4 data or our 2024 industry sales data yet. Expect that near the end of January. From what we've been hearing, it was not a great quarter. And if I had to guess, growth will be probably very modest, maybe a percentage point or two at best. So in 2025, I expect more of the same thing. Like it's going to just be a couple percentage points of growth. It's not going to be great, but this is kind of like how economies and industries are supposed to go. Like we came from the pandemic where it was this roller coasters of ups and downs, and in reality, a lot of years is just 2%, 3%, 4%. That's more the normal, and that's sort of the period I anticipate us entering in for 2025. So Sarah, Teresa, have you heard anything from either distributors or people you talk to about how their sales are doing, what they're expecting?
Not specifically, but I mean, I think like that smaller growth, like that 2% or whatever, like slow and steady sometimes is more sustainable anyway. Like I think everybody loves the idea of like these big, upswings in growth, but like, that I feel like that sometimes leads to like a bubble that can burst. So I think sometimes just like that, even if it's just modest, but if it just continues and is steady, to me, that's a good thing. I mean, of course, I'm not a business owner, so maybe I'm way off base, but.
Sarah, what have you heard?
I've heard it's flat or slightly up. That's kind of generally what I've been hearing. Some people were pleasantly surprised that their Q4 was actually a little better than last year's Q4. But I think they were surprised by that a little bit. I think they were anticipating it to be kind of flat, maybe even a little down. But yeah, in general, it hasn't been like way down, but it's been about flat or maybe slightly up is kind of what I've been hearing, at least the past 3 months.
Okay, yeah. Again, I think people's expectations are in line. No one's expecting gangbuster sales this year, and maybe that's a good thing in terms of just gauging expectations. So, Sarah, bonus Canadian content. How's the Canadian economy going to be in 2025?
Well, great question, CJ. That's a really hard thing to predict because, so as some of you may know, Prime Minister Trudeau tendered his resignation after the start of the new year. And now there is a search for a successor to him as Prime Minister. So once that person is named, he will officially step down. And then there's an election that will most likely be the Liberals and the Conservatives. There's multiple parties in Canada, kind of like here, but it'll come down to the Liberals and Conservatives. And that election will take place sometime between like April and October. Don't know when it's going to be. They have to call the election. So I think that honestly, though, the Canadians I've talked to so far are eager for a change. They are. They're eager for a change at the top. Trudeau has been prime minister for almost a decade. And they're just ready, like, here we're not used to that. Like it's at most it's 8 years, right? Like it's very different in Canada. And I think they're just ready for a change. And I think they're ready for the next page. I think they're ready for the post-pandemic prime minister. So I actually think that things are going to actually, like, right now, Canada is not great. I think they're last and as far as economic output amongst the G7. So they're not doing very well right now. Cost of living is very high in Canada, and it's really putting downward pressure on purchasing ability. So I think with a change at the top, I think there may be some renewed optimism. And, the Conservatives have some, big visions for Canada moving forward. So I actually think that depending on where the winds blow, I think it could be a very good year for Canada. And relatively speaking, there was definitely pent up demand after COVID that we saw a kind of a boost, but then it fell back again after especially inflation got really high. But I actually think it could be a pretty good year for Canada.
And so one more Canadian prediction, Sarah. Who's going to win the election this year in Canada?
I think it's going to be Pierre Poilievre. I think
Okay,
the Conservatives got it. They're trending really high right now. Their poll numbers are huge. I think Canada's ready for a party change as well. And Pierre's kind of he's the populist at the head of the Conservatives, and he's been out there. He's been very visible. He has a very clear-cut message, at least to the Canadians, and I think it's resonating with them. So yeah, I think Pierre Poilievre's going to be prime minister. That's my prediction.
All right. Well, our very vocal Canadian contingent will be sure to circle back and let you know if you were right or wrong later this year.
Yeah.
Speaking of Canada, I want to talk about the second prediction, tariffs. And here's the prediction: Trump's tariffs will be more a chisel than a hammer. And so the thinking that, at least my rationale, Trump's been obviously very vocal about his plans to implement wide-ranging tariffs as soon as he takes office. There's 10% on all import goods, 60% tariff on Chinese goods, and then he's mentioned about doing imposing a 25% tariff on Canadian and Mexican imports. And there's also been some action he talked about against the BRIC nations because they want to decouple from the U.S. dollar and create their own currency. Now, there's been reports coming out recently. Washington Post reported this. I think other outlets too, that Trump aides are being more strategic with their tariff plans, that they're not going to be sort of as all-encompassing. Trump, of course, took to social media to denounce those reports, and obviously the industry as a whole is sort of holding their breath to see what's going to happen when Trump takes office, what sort of tariffs he's going to implement. I don't think it's a matter of if he will. I think it's a matter of what he will do. Sarah, this is something that you've been reporting on, especially because you've been looking into the state of Mexican sourcing. So, what are your thoughts on this issue?
Yeah, we know that, Trump likes to get a rise out of people and kind of keep the ground moving under us and keep people kind of unsteady on their feet. So that's his game plan, is that he doesn't want people to kind of know what's going to come next. And he just has these, economic threats that I think, and honestly, I mean, he was a big reason why Trudeau is now no longer going to be prime minister. I mean, that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back, was when the finance minister, Chrystia Freeland, resigned, because she was like, Justin Trudeau does not take this tariff threat seriously. And I mean, her resignation was a big reason why he was pressured to resign, Trudeau. So there's already kind of like a casualty here, regardless of kind of like how it's all going to shake out. It is having real time, like real life effects, on the future of our trade partnership. So, but I think when reality kind of sets in, what's it all going to look like? That remains to be seen. However, as we've seen, just his talk has impact. So when you don't know what it's all going to look like at the end of the day, that's going to cause some caution in your business, and also in your ability to purchase and have confidence in what you're purchasing. So I think the reality, we're going to see how it shakes out, but the talk does have impact. Just the talk of things has impact, has real life impact on business.
Yeah, I think that's also playing into the uncertainty about the economy. But I do also think people have to remember back when the Trump introduced his first round of tariffs during his first term, there was obviously a huge sticker shock for companies in our industry, but then they got used to it. The suppliers adjusted, they built in the additional costs, and those tariffs are still in place, by the way. They haven't gone away, and we've all sort of moved on. So I kind of imagine a similar thing here, unless he really Donald Trump lays down massive, overwhelming tariffs. If it is a little more strategic, a little more measured, I think the same thing is going to happen. Companies are going to make their adjustments and move on with their lives. So, but we'll obviously see how that plays out this year. The third prediction I want to make is regarding everybody's favorite topic, port strikes. So there won't be any port strikes in 2025 because there won't be any ports left that haven't gone on strike. And I'm joking, obviously, but kind of not. I mean, like if you consider in the past year and a half, the most recent news, the Eastern and Gulf ports just reached an agreement so that workers who are potentially going to strike, they're they're not going to. So that was a huge crisis that was averted. The same ports in October avoided a strike with a tentative agreement. There's been all sorts of other disruption, supply chain issues in terms of in the Suez Canal with pirates, drought in the Panama Canal. The West Coast port workers almost struck last year. They reached a contract, and in Sarah, in Canada, there's been a ton of disruptions with what rail, like what else? What else has been happening in Canada this past year?
Oh yeah, there was rail. There was a rail strike in the summer. There was a port strike in the fall. Those things were the government stepped in and ordered them back to work. The mail wasn't running for I think over a month during the critical fourth quarter, which it's like, oh, who uses the mail anymore? It's like, well, no, actually, there are a lot of small businesses that rely on the postal service as like a, relatively cost-effective way and to get their small items mailed to customers. Like if you think almost like an Etsy situation, right? If you're like an Etsy maker, you rely on post to get your items out to customers. And also like, Amazon, FedEx, DHL, they don't go to all the rural areas. Only the post does. Like there are still people in the United States that are completely dependent on the postal service to get medicine, to get, assistance checks, whatever those things that they need to live on. So anyway, my point is that, it is still, people are like, oh, who cares about mail? Well, it had a really big impact in Canada. They're still working through the backlog. But yeah, I mean, these really critical industries, there were some, that was by far the longest strike that we saw. But yeah, rail and ports, and then yeah, the parcel delivery all had labor strife this year.
So it just seems like there's been a lot of port strikes recently, this past year and a half. And I asked Chris Rubo, our colleague who covers this regularly, and I asked him, like, is there more than normal, or are we just paying attention to it more? And he said like it's a little bit of both, but like also consider that the Biden administration is very pro-union, and these port workers felt very emboldened to strike and renegotiate because they had the administrative support. It'll be interesting to see whether that happens under Trump. I think in terms of just port strikes, I think we're leaving this phase where there's all these sort of different worker labor issues. I think it's going to settle down. And then with the supply chain overall, like I think it's just kind of permanent unease. I guess that's how I would put it. Isn't it like it's never going to be just like 100% perfect. I think there's a different crisis every month, but supply chain companies and companies in the promo industry have just gotten used to that, and really like we get our products delivered. Amazon still delivers, in 2 hours when I like order something, and so like I think the status quo is that people are still getting their products. People are definitely getting their promo products in a relatively timely manner because companies have learned to adjust. So
right, they have to kind of diversify how they're getting things because you don't know where the next disruption could come from. So hopefully people have learned the lesson that you have to have diverse kind of strategy for sourcing.
Totally, and the industry is still overwhelmingly relying on China to its betterment, but also its detriment. And if something happens, that's going to be a huge issue. But in terms of the status quo, like things are fine. This is not 2021. I think the supply chain overall is in decent shape. Speaking of China, the fourth prediction, and this is actually going on right now. I think they're hearing oral arguments today in front of the Supreme Court. TikTok won't be banned. So I'm happy to share my thoughts, but I've been talking a lot. Teresa, you're the most avid TikTok user of the three of us. So two questions. One, do you think TikTok's going to be banned? And then two, if it's banned, like how big a deal is this for society and for the promo industry?
Well, I think you're probably. I don't think it probably will not be outright banned. I mean, some of the things I was kind of like reading about it recently, like even if it's like banned, it won't like go away right away. It might just the functionality might just kind of slowly get, less and less good. Like maybe it will no longer be available on, Google Play and the iPhone store, whatever they call that, the App Store.
Right.
And maybe like what I mean. So like it's probably if it goes away, it's going to be more of like a trickle, not just like gone in a day. I mean, I haven't used TikTok that much lately, but I think it could probably be a good thing if it were gone. But it's like, do we need all these silly viral dances? I don't think so. But I mean, yeah, it is a good marketing tool for people in promo, but I don't think it's totally necessary. So I don't think it would be that big of a deal if it went away tomorrow. And probably there would just be another like social media site that would crop up to take its place. But really, like that could also be true. Like that could just happen anyway, right? Like, for a while Instagram was like king, and before that, like Facebook. There's probably going to be whatever the next thing beyond TikTok is anyway. So even if it isn't banned, I don't think it's going to keep its supremacy forever, because I think social media audiences are kind of fickle, and then whatever was cool for one generation, the younger people are going to be like, I don't want to be on Facebook. That's where my parents and grandparents are. And I don't want to be on, Instagram, because that's where like the millennials are and they're chuggy or something. I don't know. And like, so like the alpha and the Gen Z are on TikTok. And then if there's too many older people in that, they won't like that anymore. You know what I mean? So it's just like, I feel like the nature of social media is it's so much in flux anyway, so that even if it is banned, there's going to be something else that crops up. If it's not banned, something else will come up. So
yeah, like if this was 5 years later, right, I think that it would be a bit of a more collective shrug, because it would probably have been past the peak of its popularity, but that's not the case right now. I agree with you though, like that there's going to be something else to take its place. And if it does get banned, I don't think it will be. If it does get banned, it'll be interesting to see what crops up like immediately to take its place, because I'm sure there's going to be some sort of TikTok-like imitator, just in the way that Blue Sky is another version of Twitter or X. And it'll be interesting to see if there's like a single dominant platform like TikTok that would emerge that people would gravitate to.
And honestly, like I think people like I have an almost teenager. She's really just on YouTube more than any other thing, which seems weird to me because like YouTube's been around for so long, but it's so big, and there's so many different little like facets and it's just easy for her to get to, I guess, the creators that she likes. So it's not, I feel like there's already alternatives that younger people are using besides TikTok.
Yeah, the question of whether it's going to be banned, so that's in the hands of the Supreme Court. Again, this was sort of a Biden administration initiative because there's concerns about national security. The company that owns TikTok, ByteDance, is a Chinese company, and the thought of, again, a Chinese company with potentially, not allegedly, ties to the Chinese government having an app on millions of Americans' phones, gave the Biden administration hives. Now, the Trump had initially supported this ban, but has backed off, and one reason is that TikTok was very beneficial to
because he got a lot of followers.
So it'll be interesting to see, because whether now with a different administration that has any influence on the on the Supreme Court's ruling. Of course, the Supreme Court justices are very active social media users, and I'm highly familiar with TikTok. I'm sure it's going to influence their decision. So we'll see, and whether it directly impacts promo companies. There are a few, I'm sure, promo companies who are leveraging TikTok in a highly beneficial manner. Actually, I think the biggest impact of promo, one of the biggest impacts, is that TikTok is a huge trend maker and influences taste and product trends, stuff like that, just like a Stanley, of course. So if TikTok is gone, what's going to be driving product trends, and the companies that figure that out and then get on board with that, I think will actually have a huge leg up.
Yeah, for sure.
If it's banned, of course. Well, I think it may even be decided by the time this podcast comes out. So don't hold me to it if I'm wrong. I just spoke about Stanley, and so my number 5 prediction: peak drinkware is over. And actually, I feel pretty comfortable saying this. If you just look at the stats, so industry sales wise in 2023, drinkware reached 10.7% of industry sales. That's the first time it's cracked double digits, and the highest figure since we've been tracking it since 2008. It's possible that it may have been higher in the 80s or 90s. I don't have my back issues of those editions of Counselor.
People didn't drink water back then.
That's true. That's a very fair point. Yes, that's true. Also, I think the other reason is where it's going to be like a slight, we're on the downturn for drinkware, is that Stanley Mania has come and gone. That Stanley is hugely popular still, but it did reach its height at the end of 2023 and beginning of 2024, and while it's popular, but not nearly as popular as Stanley, and not nearly as widely available in the industry. And so without sort of something to take its place in terms of this mega viral trend, I just don't think that drinkware will be able to reach the same heights it did 1 year ago. So am I crazy, or am I on the right path?
I think you're right. I mean, Stanley, they made fun of it on Saturday Night Live, like last year maybe.
Right.
So I don't know. I think it has kind of jumped the shark. It's definitely like once it's so ubiquitous that I think people are kind of over it for the most part. But I think that there's still people still young people, they still want a new water bottle. At least my daughter, she wants a new water bottle every year.
Right, my kids too.
Yeah, so it's sort of like a back to school staple now. So I think that it'll still be a steady kind of business, but it's not going to just keep going up and up, because people do have a cabinet full of every different water bottle. But I mean, it is more of a lifestyle piece now. So you want new ones, you want what's cool, you want to refresh it. I think it's going to remain kind of steady, but it's not going to be like the it thing as much anymore.
Sarah, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, well, I wrote the 2023 Product of the Year story on Stanley, so I did a deep dive, and I think even back then, which was a year ago, I guess. Yeah, it was a year ago. Even then, we were talking about peak drinkware, and just in general, I think it was such a hot product for so long. To Teresa's point, our cabinets are overflowing. So anymore, if you get something new, if you buy it, or if it's a giveaway, you have to make room. Another one's going to be thrown out. And so what is that for sustainability and waste,
Right.
So I think that drinkware has plateaued, but in the industry, at least, I would say, but you know what? Drinkware is a really great promo product.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got everything you want, right? It's a lifestyle item. It gets brand impressions because you take it with you. If it's stainless steel, the laser engraving looks really nice and is lasting. It doesn't, it's not like a print. It's got a really generous imprint area. You can put a lot of messaging on it. I just think I don't think it's going to go away totally. I think it's still a really nice promo product that I think people do appreciate. Everyone loves a nice tumbler. But I think, yeah, I think we're starting to reach kind of peak drinkware for the space reasons, but also because I think people are just, their attention is elsewhere now.
Well, I think maybe for it, like, it'll have to be like more thoughtful, you know, promo with drinkware. There has to be like a reason for it, not just like, oh, you give them any old like water bottle and they'll be happy with it. It has to be like something really cool, or even like I've seen a lot of like accessories for drinkware, you know, like things that you can, like the little lids for like the straw, or a little like I don't know, a little mini backpack or something for your Stanley, so you can put your phone in, or put some like extra stuff. You know what I mean? I think like add-ons like that will maybe kind of grow in popularity, because everybody already has that drinkware. So just the same way it's like everyone has their iPhone or whatever. So like phone wallets and you know, pop grips and things like that become popular. I think like the accessories for drinkware will maybe become more popular.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think of it in terms of it's being similar to the reusable bag craze that was around the early 2010s. Um, there's a time that everybody was giving them away, and same thing, just had like a whole drawer or a cabinet full of reusable bags. And it's not like they went completely away. Like I'm sure all of us, we receive reusable bags all the time for different giveaways and promos. So it's still a very popular product. It just never reached those heights, and people still use those bags every day. And I imagine it being the same thing with drinkware. I'm not suggesting this trend is going away. It's still going to be very popular, and it's going to be a staple of promo sales. But I do think just in the past year, we sort of reached its peak impact culturally, maybe financially in terms of sales. So it remains to be seen. Number 7, it's number 6 prediction, getting ahead of myself. Number 6 prediction, the AI bubble will burst in 2027. And we know how big AI is. It's obviously everywhere right now in terms of discussion and in terms of being added to new programs, new products, new features. And so what I'm imagining is like a similar dynamic to what happened with the dot-com bust in the early 2000s, where everybody just jumped in sort of without like kind of like a plan, just like, oh, we have to add AI, we have to, it needs to be part of our thing, just like they did with the internet. And what's happening is that even though there's going to be tons of innovation and unique benefits in the short term, these AI companies, they're spending, I don't know, hundreds of millions, billions of dollars training these AI programs, right? Without sort of an idea of what the benefit might be. And without a profit, like a map to profit with all that money they're spending, like I think in a couple years time, it's gonna just hit the economy, and there's gonna be maybe like a tech sector recession. But I'm saying we're not there yet. Like in the short term, I think that AI is still like all about promise and innovation and where it can go. So those are my thoughts. Maybe a bit of a hot take. What do you all think?
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I think that there's still like everybody wants to add AI, but I still think there's a lot of people that don't really understand what they're doing with it, or understand what it actually is, or what it actually can do. And there's a lot of optimism thinking that it's like much better than it actually is. I think it's AI can be, especially like the generative AI that a lot of people are just kind of using in their day to day. I think it's good for like replacing kind of like those easy kind of rote tasks. But I think there's already becoming a backlash of people when people are using it for like creative things. Like I go on like LinkedIn now and I see so many posts that are so clearly written with AI and so clearly using like kind of a really subpar AI generated artwork. And I think just from a personal perspective, I think a lot of people are just going to be turned off by that, and they're going to get more savvy of noticing like this is not even a real person talking. It's, yeah, I guess it was your thoughts, but you know, kind of spit it out with this like AI. I don't know. I think that I think it's going to continue to like pervade everything, like you said, this year. But I think there's a backlash coming in terms of what it's actually able to do, and people just getting sick of very clearly AI written content. So yeah, I think there will be a backlash coming and a bubble bursting at some point.
Sarah, what do you think?
I couldn't agree more. I think to Teresa's point, like, yeah, for sure there's value in using it to make yourself more efficient during the day, especially if you're like a salesperson who doesn't want to spend time on like the time sucks and wants to be building relationships and actually selling and having meaningful phone calls. And like, yes, it definitely has value and merit there. The problem is, I think, where it's used as a content creator. And it's already kind of difficult for people to synthesize what they see online, what's real and what's not. So if we're so worried about misinformation, what's with all the breathlessness about what AI can create in 2 seconds? Like, it's really hard for people. The rumor mill is already really strong on social media. Like, for AI to be creating things which you look so real, that's like kind of a problem. I mean, it's like it makes you question like the reality around you. Like, I don't know that that's very healthy, but I think too, like, I think that the news came out recently, I think this week, that like OpenAI loses money every day because it's
Yeah.
so expensive to run ChatGPT. Like, they're just losing money.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think, and CJ, I think I brought this up with you recently, where sometimes these tools just they go too far. Like, there was that commercial during the Olympics in the summer where Teresa. When I saw that, my jaw dropped open. It was Google Gemini, and they were like, "Oh, my daughter," it was a dad. "My
Yeah.
daughter wants to write a letter to her favorite Olympic athlete, but it's got to be perfect." And then they used Gemini to write a letter. The girl is like 8. She's not 2. She's like 8 years old. She should be able to write a letter by
Yeah.
herself. And it was like, and then I had like empowering music. I'm like, this is not empowering. I'm
No,
sorry.
there was such a
Right?
backlash over that
They
commercial.
pulled it.
Yeah.
They pulled the commercial. Like,
I don't know, if
that's
you were a track star, wouldn't you? I would much rather get the very cute letter written by an 8-year-old, maybe with some misspellings, handwritten. Like, that would be so much more meaningful than
Right.
some like garbage like spit out by AI.
Yeah, it's that kind of
Also,
thing.
the other thing to think about, sustainability wise, the computing power needed for AI is
Right.
like kind of off the charts, and it's actually really bad for the environment, from what I understand. So
Yep.
we have to think about like all this energy that is being used for AI when it's like something as silly as like write a limerick in like Shakespearean style about a Stanley, you know what I mean? Like, is that fun? I guess, but like, do we need to, I don't know, burn down like a forest to like get this very silly content? Like,
It's a great
maybe we
point.
should be a little bit more strategic and actually think about like what some of those other consequences are that maybe are unseen as you're typing away, but are like really real world issues.
Not
Yeah,
to
and that's
mention like the scams that are coming out now,
Oh.
like where they can replicate your voice and trick your grandmother into wiring somebody $10,000. Like, I don't know. It's just kind of things that make me nervous.
Yeah, like obviously there's a lot of hand wringing about what the future holds and what the possibilities are, good or bad. Like and both of you mentioned this, and kind of my point is that AI is just getting shoehorned into everything now because it's the hot new thing. And that doesn't mean that you as a promo business owner or sales rep or employee shouldn't use it, right? There are definite time-saving benefits that you should be exploring and figuring out. I guess my point is bigger picture wise. Again, very similar to the dot-com bust in early 2000s. There was a time where it's like the internet is going to change everything, and people were just throwing everything against the wall to see what sticks. And eventually that bubble burst, and the economy took a hit. And I think the same thing's going to happen with AI. But again, in the early 2000s, it's not like the internet went away. The internet is now it was reimagined and sort of refocused, and then it's now interwoven to every single part of our daily lives, right? And AI, I think, is going to follow a similar path, but there's
Yeah.
like growing pains that we're going to have to go through to get there.
It's the hype cycle, right? Where it's like it's hype, going up and up, and then it's gonna kind of fall and then just sort of normalize into the real world uses.
Yeah, I think we're a couple years away from that, but could be sooner, could be later. We'll see. The seventh prediction, traceability will be the next big thing in sustainability. Teresa, I'm going to cede the floor to you. This is your area of expertise. So what should we know about traceability and why is it going to be big?
So, I mean, I think we're already starting to see this with some of the bigger suppliers and more sustainability focused ones. For instance, like, Gemline has a line of like bags that have traceability technology. I think the company's called Aware, where it's actually kind of traces the supply chain, so you can make sure that this bag is actually sustainably made and is used, using like sustainable materials. And it just has like a QR code that lets you kind of track the supply chain. And I think because so many end users and buyers, they want to know what the sustainability of something is. They want to make sure it's not greenwashing. I think we're going to see a lot more of that product level carbon footprint of products and life cycle analyses. I just think because everybody wants to make sure that what they're getting is actually what people are saying about it. Like, it's not enough to it's like there's too much greenwashing, right? So it's not enough to just say like, oh, look, I have this eco-friendly product. People want to know, like, why is it eco-friendly? What is so special about it? Where do these materials come from? Is there actually a give back? Like, and because we have like the QR codes and some technology to actually kind of support that, I think more and more we're going to incorporate that technology into products so that people can like scan it and kind of go on like a dashboard and see this product caused this much carbon to be created, and it will it's made of like certified organic materials, or this recycled polyester is actually recycled, and here's where it originated. So I really think that more and more it's going to become a requirement. And I also, if we're looking like in the US, not so much, but like in the European Union, I know they have that digital product passport that's going to be coming out. And we don't know, I don't think we know exactly yet what all is going to be required on there, but I know there's a lot of companies that are coming up with solutions. And this is mostly for, I think, apparel and like soft goods right now, but I'm sure that it's going to continue into other aspects too. But having those digital product passports where you can just kind of scan it and see all of those like sustainability stats is going to become a requirement in the EU. And if it's over there, I think a lot of companies are not going to just come up with a different solution for the US. It's probably going to trickle over to our side as well.
Yeah, look, if you're just your average promo buyer, like are you going to be demanding traceability? Probably not, but what you should know is that it's a new era of sustainability, and it's one where you need proof. You can't just say it is. And I think you can have things like certifications, obviously, and statistics. But I think traceability is like the biggest evolution of this, because it's demonstrated inarguable proof about where products come from, are they sustainable, and so like that's coming where all buyers are going to say like where's the proof. It's not just going to be enough if you want eco products to say it is eco. People
want really product level, very specific data now as well. I know, like I think I was talking to someone from Kuzi Group. They became certified carbon neutral, which was great. But then they're like, well, what about like specific, what is the carbon footprint of the specific pen? So they're now working to actually take that certification and put it on, like, I think they've released like 8 pens that are specifically carbon neutral pens, as opposed to their whole company is carbon neutral. But that's not necessarily enough for people. They want to know, what does this specific product, what is its impact, what is its footprint? Yeah. Yep. So something to keep your eye out for. Okay, we got 2 more. We're gonna power through here. Number 8, brand collabs will get even weirder. And actually, do you think that's possible? Like, Teresa, you think it's possible to get even weirder than they have been? They're pretty weird. They get pretty weird. I think that maybe the weirdness will just continue at the same level because, yeah, I mean, like I'm trying to think, like pockets that you can put like your burritos in on a sweater, or I don't even know. They just get very, very strange.
Well, just for funsies, I did ask AI for some new brand collaborations, so I'll just read a couple of these. You can tell me how good they are. Nike and Michelin, so sneakers with tire tread soles for ultimate grip and durability. Like, it might be
That
a thing
doesn't seem
already.
that weird, but
Yeah. So this one I think is possible. Ben and Jerry's and Lush, so ice cream scented bath bombs like Cherry Garcia or Chunky Monkey.
wait, are these real things or are these things that
No,
AI made up?
these are made up ones I asked
Okay.
AI to come
Okay.
up with. Yeah.
I think that
Um,
one could work because they also have sort of similar brand ethoses where they're like, about people and the environment and all that stuff.
yeah, totally. Tesla and IKEA, flat pack electric cars that you assemble at home.
Okay.
I think that's a winner. And then two more, Gucci and Play-Doh, so high fashion Play-Doh that they can like make into designer accessories.
High fashion Play-Doh. Okay.
I think that's a winner. And then this for this last one, which I came up with. I mean, like I guess Crocs in anything, because like I feel like Crocs is the most serial weirdo brand collaborator. But I don't know like where they have left to go because it seems like they've done everything already.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, well, I mean, these are definitely a thing. They get a lot of social media attention, and usually it works out for these companies. So just definitely expect that to continue this year. All right, the very last prediction, of course, the one you've been all waiting for, the 2025 product of the year will be pickleball. Okay, so the full confession, this was like a runner-up in our internal voting for product of the year this year. And I think there's definite reasons why it'll be a contender again in 2025. Just a couple of stats. Um, so so pickleball is played by depending on which association you believe, 13 million Americans, 36 million Americans, 48 million Americans, and it's going to continue growing. Nearly 30% of players are between 18 to 34. That's the largest age bracket, which I found surprising, like that younger people are playing this.
Yeah, because everybody thinks it's just old people playing pickleball.
Yeah. Um, so in ESP, searches for pickleball went up 49% in 2024 from 2023. Hi, Ollie, joining my call. And they were up massively in 2022. And in pickleball searches were equivalent ESP to that of Bluetooth speaker, which I found surprising. And the biggest reason is that I think like tons of suppliers are starting to embrace it. So it used to be just a few suppliers that carried pickleball items. Now there's over 300 suppliers in ESP. So yes, I know this is not going to be the winner because whatever I predict is wrong. But actually, I feel pretty good that pickleball is going to be a big thing in 2025. Do you agree or disagree?
No, I think so because the paddle is a perfect like branding opportunity. You can get like wild with it. You can really have like a bold like logo on it, and I don't think it will annoy people. Like sometimes if you have like a logo that's too prominent on like a t-shirt or a polo or something, it's like people aren't really all about that. But a pickleball like paddle is kind of inherently fun and unserious, so putting something like crazy like someone's face or some kind of like bold branding, I think people would like that. And it's something that people, like a lot of people are really into it, but there's still a lot of people that haven't tried it. So I think there's just a lot of opportunity for someone to get their first pickleball set. Or, if you already have a bunch, like why wouldn't you want more? Because I'm sure the balls get, you lose the balls sometimes and whatnot. So I feel like there's a lot of opportunity, and also opportunity for like maybe specialized accessories like special bags to hold your pickleball paddles in. I'm sure there's other like ancillary things that could be added on. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for pickleball and pickleball related promo. Plus it's fun to say pickleball.
Um, Sarah, Teresa, have either of you ever played pickleball?
I played it once, but I didn't actually know the rules. My daughter played it in gym and she wanted to play. So I got her some for I think Christmas maybe last year. And then when it got warmer, we tried to find like a free like pickleball court around us, which it was packed. I was surprised. Like there was I think there was like one court open and it was kind of fun. Like we didn't really know what we were doing, but it seemed like fun. Like I would do it again. Maybe I should actually learn what the rules are before I do it next time. Have you played?
Yeah, so I played actually. I played it in high school gym, and
It's
so
been around that long?
yeah, and that's the
I
thing.
mean,
When
I
I
don't mean
mentioned,
that like you're old, but like it's been a little while since high school, right?
well, when I mention this to people, like sometimes people are like their pickleballs around then, but other times people are like, yeah, like I played pickleball like in gym in school too. So it's just interesting the diverging experiences.
Mhm.
Well, at our holiday party this year, our editorial and other close departments in ASI, we all received special branded pickleball sets courtesy of Michelle Bell with our boss Andy Cohen's face on it. So we have no reason not to play this year
That's
because we have the
true.
equipment.
That's true.
So yeah, we'll again, my predictions for product of the year, of course, are always wrong. So don't bet on them. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Sometimes with our product of the year, there's like years long evolutions that you can see coming, and then sometimes there are things like Stanley that kind of just come out of the blue, and that's the fun of it for sure. All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening to our bold predictions for 2025. Tim Andrews, Michelle Bell, do not tie my bonus to my record here because it's not going to be. I'll take 500. If I get half right, I'll be happy. We'll see. Sarah, Teresa, any other bonus predictions you want to throw in last minute?
I
No,
got nothing.
this was,
We covered it all.
we did.
I'll fall on the sword in case for anything we get wrong. Well, thank you both for joining me today. This is a lot of fun. And thank you to everybody for listening, for watching and following our Promo Insiders podcast. Have a great rest of your week.